Welcome to a very special show tonight. Why special? Because I am joined by some of my absolute favorite people, some of my best friends, my support system, the fabulous ladies who drink. This group is a beautiful microcosm of Israel's Olim, immigrants from across the United States, East Coast, West Coast, and Middle America. We represent it all, religious, not religious, used to be religious. Anyway, some of us are, basically, we're all middle-aged women. I'm, of course, the youngest here in the group, but I won't tell you who's the oldest. Anyway, today's show is going to be fun and a little unpredictable. We're just going to chat, see where the conversation takes us, and unpack 2024. The good, the bad, the wins, and the losses. Then we'll look ahead to 2025. But first, let me introduce this amazing group of women. Let's get started. Laura Ben-David, Head of Marketing for Shavei Israel. Laura Cornfield, Director of Media Central. Robin Sirkin, my right-hand person at Hoffman Communications. And Linda Gradstein, Correspondent for Voice of America. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thanks, Maayan.
Pleasure.
So I want to start out, it's kind of on a serious note. You know, here we are at the end of 15 months of war. The question is whether or not we've actually managed to have any real successes, whether we have won the war against Hamas, against the seven fronts. And I can tell you personally that as I sit here at the end of the year, I think to myself, wow, amazing military victories, but those hostages are still not home. And I start out feeling very heavy. Linda, tell me, do you feel like we've won the war?
Against Hamas, definitely not. And in fact, Hamas is now getting strengthened again, certainly in northern Gaza. Israel is making plans to stay in northern Gaza long term, whether militarily or at least some on the extreme want to build settlements in Gaza. Against Hezbollah and Iran, I think yes. Against Hezbollah right now, it's funny, all these decades that I've been covering this, everyone thought, if there's a war between Israel and Hezbollah, you're going to have thousands of Israelis dead, you're going to have missiles raining down. And then with the pagers and with all of this stuff, and Hezbollah is not really, at this point, a serious military force. Iran has been weakened. The fact that there are still missiles coming from the Houthis is something else, which is sort of interesting. But against Hamas, we have definitely not won the war.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. We say we've dismantled 80% of the infrastructure, the military infrastructure, but the truth is Hamas is still ruling the Gaza Strip.
Well, and I think it's because of a lack of the day after. In other words, that the government really has three choices. One, you can work with the Palestinian Authority and the international community with the UAE and other Arab states. You can take over Gaza permanently, or you can sort of let the status quo continue, which is what's happening. And what's happening in that vacuum that exists is Hamas is moving back in. Who's running Gaza now? Gangs and Hamas. They're stealing all the international aid. And it's people in Gaza are suffering. There are babies who are freezing to death.
100%. Now, Laura, I want to turn to you, to respond to Linda, but also to look back at, some of the things that she's saying and think about the strategic mistakes, if you think we made any, throughout this war that led us to where we are today.
Well, the first number one mistake was our lack of forethought and our lack of listening to the intel that we got from those observers, and nobody paid attention to them for whatever reason. That has to be investigated. I also think that there's a lack of strategic planning. I think that nobody is stepping up in charge and saying, this is what's going to happen. There's so many. There's the Mossad, and there's the political leaders, and then, of course, there's the public, and there's the military. There's not one head leading the fight, and I think that's really caused a huge detriment to the country, that nobody really knows what the endgame strategy is. Unfortunately, it's left our hostages in Gaza. It's left our military in returning now to the Gaza Strip, like you said.
It's left our southern border still at risk. And our northern border, we still don't have our 65,000 residents returned there, despite the ceasefire with Hezbollah. Laura, let's turn to you and talk a little bit about this as well. Do you agree with Laura's assessment? Do you feel that there are some lessons that we can learn from what you've been watching, photographing over the past 15 plus months?
Yeah, I think that it's obviously very frustrating. I feel like this has gone very, very long and without really a plan. There doesn't seem to be any kind of end game. And yeah, what you said at the beginning is exactly correct. The fact that we may have won a lot, but those hostages are still there and there is no end in sight. And it's really frustrating.
100%. Now, I do want to turn to you, Robin, but I want to just jump back to you real quick, Laura, to talk about the PR war. We are suffering from in the PR war on the social networks and what's been going on in the international media. As director of Media Central, you're obviously working with a lot of the international media here on the ground. Tell me how you view this battle.
Well, first of all, Israel has, unfortunately, I say this, a horrible media strategy. Remember also that, like someone said to me recently, rumors run and the truth stays static. And it really goes true that, that you go onto Twitter and you go onto Instagram and you go into all these sites and we don't even have a say. People aren't listening to us. And the truth is,
we're a lot smaller than everybody else on those social networks.
Yeah, but you know something?
Of Jews.
The very beginning of the war, I'd say 2-3 days, we actually had the upper hand. And then all of a sudden, everything overturned and Israel became the oppressor. And the thing, like we were speaking about it on the way here, what you said about that.
Yeah, and I'd love for you to address that because you truthfully were working with the Jerusalem Post at the beginning of this work, looking at all of those videos and all of the footage that came out.
I think the issue is that the war at the beginning was we could express ourselves in 280 characters. And at the time, we could deal with the shock and the information and get that out, and people were responding to that. But at this point, we can't, in 280 characters, we can't refute the issues that are being brought up. We can't redirect. We can't educate. We can't express ourselves in 280 characters. And that's why we're losing the social media, because we can't accomplish what we need to do or even get started.
Or maybe we're not passionate about it. I mean, Linda, let's turn. Go ahead, please.
No, I'm saying as a foreign journalist, look, Voice of America reaches 380 million people around the world. I have asked, and we're on Pakistani television and Nigerian television all over the world, not so much in the United States and not in Israel. I have asked the Army spokesman's office 20 times to go with troops into Gaza. And they've either ignored me or said no. Now, they're taking Israeli journalists in all the time.
I'm going to cut off for 1 second, though. But you, as a foreign reporter, do you come in it with an agenda of what you want to present? Is anyone dictating it?
Definitely
you have
not.
freedom of what you can publish and what you can say?
I have total freedom of what I can say. But if I can't get anyone in the Army to talk to me, how am I supposed to present that? COGAT, right, the group that's providing the aid, I ask them for a quote and they either ignore me. I say, and I really am trying to understand because something's going wrong with the transfer of humanitarian aid into Gaza.
Well, I don't think there's something going wrong with the transfer of humanitarian aid. I think there's an issue that when the aid gets in, it doesn't transfer to the people, the distribution of aid.
It's not
They're
only
making it into the strip.
Of aid because there are hundreds of trucks waiting on the Israeli side of the border. 800 trucks as of yesterday.
I actually spoke to COGAT last night, and so they do answer me, but apparently because I'm an Israeli journalist. But the truth of the matter is that we are getting an awful lot of aid in. We are enabling aid to get in there. But at the same time, I spoke to Physicians for Human Rights this morning who said that there is aid available, but there is not aid making it to the people. And that when we talk about our attacks on the hospitals or we talk about some of the things that are gone, certainly terror hubs, but there are international rules and proportionality that need to be followed that Israel might be or might not be following, and the IDF is not transparent enough or not giving us the information for us to understand.
So I think one is information. Secondly, when you have civilians being killed, and I constantly say, Hamas is embedding itself among civilians. And so, on the other hand, there was a big investigation in the New York Times a few days ago in which they said the rules of engagement have been significantly relaxed this war.
Yes.
Now, my impression, at least American journalists, Laura, is that most do not come with an agenda. I can't talk about European journalists. Most want to come. First of all, American journalists who are based here is one thing, who know the country.
Yeah, but they helicoptered in 2,500 foreign journalists for the war. I mean, most of them have left the country already. Right. But can you address those foreign journalists who don't know the country, don't know the background, don't have the resources?
Well, and I think that's why what you guys do is important. In other words, it is important for people to show them as much as possible and to give them access. You can't expect people. I always used to joke that there should be the government press office should be sitting in the airport with a desk with fresh Jaffa orange juice and should be welcoming journalists.
I'm thinking wine.
Or wine.
I know. I'm wondering. I'm a little confused about that, actually, Robin. Let me pour you some more. Let's move on to another subject. Okay, let's talk about diplomacy. All right, for this war, God willing, at some point soon is going to at least come to some kind of shift, if not conclusion. Please God, we're going to get the hostages back and we will be able to at least transition in Gaza. Whether or not that looks like no plan, a middle ground plan, positive, moving into some wonderful future. That's for another discussion. But in this, we have had a lot of diplomatic pushback. There was Saudi Arabia on the table. President Trump is coming into the office. Some think we're on the cusp of a golden era. Respond. Are we on the cusp? What do you think of Trump? I mean, I have to bring it up.
Yeah, well, what do I think of Trump? I'm not sure. I'm like a little bit of a wait and see, even though we've already seen it. It's a little frightening. I think that there's possibilities because he has guts that other people don't have. I don't necessarily appreciate the guts all the time, but he has them. I do think that there are possibilities. Look, we saw it with the Abraham Accords. I think that it can happen again with other countries. I think that there's a lot of possibilities that exist, and I don't really think there's too many people besides for Trump who can pull that off. So I'm hoping.
You're hoping. Robin, let's turn to you for a minute to think about that. I mean, I don't want to out you here, but we know you didn't vote for Trump. So sorry, now the whole world knows. But tell me, though, in terms of Trump and Israel, I know your concerns when you talk about domestic politics, but let's talk about Trump and Israel. Do you feel that there's hope, knowing that he's now in office in any capacity?
I have to have hope because we have to see what there's possible for the future and go from there. But I'm very, very nervous, and I get very concerned with his bait and switch and focus and the short 280 characters. He'll just proclaim that, Hezbollah.
Well, the war is going to end with Ukraine and Russia tomorrow.
He's going to make sure the hostages come home at the end of January. He can determine that. And so that concerns me, his proclamations and the soundbite politics and media. And that is my greatest concern, that nothing is actually going to be done. And all the other things that go around with focusing on education, healthcare, environment, it's shielding any actual political and progress that we make with his sound bites and focusing on him.
Now, Linda, I want you to react to this because you've been covering diplomacy in the region for quite some time, and you've seen a number of different both ambassadors and presidents in place over the years that you've covered this war. We're about to get Mike Huckabee, first evangelical ambassador, comes with a lot of pro-Israel momentum. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I don't know that the ambassador matters all that much. In other words, the ambassador fulfills the policy of the president at the time. And Mike Huckabee certainly knows a lot about Israel, is very close to the settler community, close to the evangelical community. I don't think it'll matter. What I think is interesting, by the way, is there was a report a couple of days ago about famine in Gaza, and the American ambassador, Jack Lew, said, no, you guys are wrong. It's not correct. And they withdrew the report.
That's important.
Which is important.
That's huge, yeah.
And they withdrew it. And he knew enough, he has enough. But in general, I think the ambassador really fulfills. I'm very worried about President Trump. I'll tell you why. I think he's completely transactional. I think he does what's good for President Trump. And if he decides that support for Israel is not good for President Trump, that support for Israel will go out the window. And I also don't think that he is a deep thinker. On the other hand,
we've seen him in his previous term. We never had it better. I mean, besides the Abraham Accords, the support, the financial support, the military support, the basic support throughout the entire government. I mean, you can't take that away from him.
And you can't take away that he has a constituency that voted for him partly because they believe that he will support Israel. And you cannot separate Trump from the evangelical Christians who don't believe in Israel transactionally, but believe in Israel from a biblical perspective, the biblical heartland for sure, Judea and Samaria, whatever will happen there, but also in terms of just supporting Jerusalem and the people of Israel to resettle the lands. Now, we're going to start getting close to the end of time, and I want to be able to jump to some more aspirational views of the future that we can have a little bit more, happiness. But I do want to take 2024 and then jump to 2025. So we're going to start like this. Finish my sentence. Okay. We'll start with you.
We didn't drink enough for that.
Well, here, let me pour you a little more.
Are you going to mention what the wine is?
Oh my gosh, of course. This is actually a very special wine, Maayan's New Era Reserve. This is for our new era, the new year, and that's why we brought this wine today. It's actually harvested in Eish Kodesh on the mountaintop of Shomron. It is a very special wine, and it is very delicious. It is not available in stores, so you'll have to, I guess, talk to me if you want to get any of that.
We've got
some ins, yes. Okay, ladies who drink, All right, Linda. Finish the sentence. My 2024 hero was
Rachel Goldberg Poland, the mother of Hirsch Goldberg Poland. Hirsch was one of the hostages who was killed in Gaza, and Rachel is a friend, Rachel and John, and Hirsch actually grew up with one of my sons, and she has just been a hero in the way she has handled the most horrible, horrible thing that can happen to any parent with incredible grace and incredible love for Israel and love for the Jewish people.
Laura Ben David.
I have to say the Mossad. After what happened with those beepers and all the things that they did with Hezbollah and getting rid of all those enemies, like one after another, that was just amazing. So they are my heroes.
So I'm going to take my turn. My hero is actually you. So I don't know what I'm allowed to share, but I definitely, anything, okay? So anything goes. I mean, you have been battling cancer for a year, and I've been watching you, and I have to say that I actually, like, when I was thinking about it and I was sitting down and saying, who is my hero? And there's so many national heroes and national buckets, but personally, to watch someone be able to handle it the way you have, with grace and with love and with beauty, and to still continue, which is a message for, like, really the whole of the state of Israel should learn from you how to take hard times and live. Wow. I mean, it's just really been, for me personally, amazing to watch you. So I love you so much. So
Thank you. I'm speechless. I love you.
I never cry.
I'm sorry. Okay, I will jump to a different question to clean us up here. Let's talk about villains. Laura, I think you should take that one. 2024 villain was?
Okay, I've got two answers to that. I'll make it quick. I know I'm time limited. First of all, of course, Iran, Hezbollah, Hamas, the obvious. But honestly, and you may think I'm crazy, social media. It's killing us. It's killing our children. It's killing our education. It's actually so detrimental. And, you know, I have young children. I don't even know how to stop it anymore. I think it's controlling not only the narrative, it's controlling our future generation. It's controlling the exit of brain matter from Israel. So it's a tie.
It's a tie. Robin, villain of 2024.
I agree with Laura in terms of social media. I think that is absolutely it. And I think what we all need to do for going into 2025 is to work on the advocacy and education and supporting
100%.
That 100%. We as individuals need to reach out to our friends and our family and Olim and all over the world as much as we can to advocate and educate. And that's the only way we're going to be able to make progress in 2025.
Linda, my New Year's resolution for the state of Israel is?
That the entire state of Israel should be more like ladies who drink. Amen
to that, L'chaim.
Bring it on.
We come from very different backgrounds. We have very different political views. We have very different
Did you notice that?
We don't
have
all
very
agree.
different family situations, and yet we support each other. We champion each other's successes. We help each other during hard times, and the state of Israel should be like that. I think the society in Israel has shown unbelievable resilience through a very difficult time. There's all kinds of amazing volunteer things going on. It's because the government isn't doing what it should do, but we'll leave that on the side. And we should all just relate to each other.
It was so nice before you threw that line in, you know.
I'm going to fight with you about that later.
You can. Anyway, I think that I just want the entire country to be like ladies who drink.
Amen. Laura Ben David, my New Year's resolution for the state of Israel.
Yeah, the state of Israel. I mean, I don't know if I can top that, but yeah, certainly that we should really just come together, support each other, and be able to just move forward and with strength and love, always.
And listen to each other.
Amen to that. Okay, Laura Cornfield, my New Year's resolution for the Jewish people.
Ooh. I don't think you prepared me for that.
I think that was on the list of
maybe.
potential questions.
It's kind of what Linda and Laura said about for the Jewish state. I think the Jewish people, it's coming behind Israel. It's standing up for Israel, not just in Israel, but certainly abroad, because I think we've lost a lot of our international support. I think that we've seen a lot of Jews losing the plot completely. I mean, look at the universities, look at the protests. I think it really, we just need to stand behind Israel and come together as a Jewish people.
Robin, 30 seconds, your New Year's resolution for the Jewish people.
I think it is advocating for Israel, and I am what I call a failed aliyah. I have 4 children that are in graduate school and PhDs in America. So all 4 have left Israel for higher education. And I think I want to do and advocate what I can do to bring my children and other children back to Israel so that there is the the capacity for the future.
Oh, I didn't know we were like so aligned, because my resolution is actually that as well. I really want to encourage Jews worldwide to see Israel as their actual homeland, and to know that they can come here, they can live safely, and they can live happily, contribute, and be part of a vibrant community here in Israel. I think it's so important, especially as we have gone through so much time here with the war. So with that, I think that is all the time that we have this evening. I really want to thank our guests, Laura, Robin, and Linda, for being here tonight. Wishing all of our viewers a healthy and happy new year. For more of the latest updates from Israel, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter at ILTV.tv. Thanks for watching Insider. L'chaim.
L'chaim and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's.